with infrastructure. Later this evening, we have media design and business. Yesterday, we had software engineering and technology. And then on Thursday, we still have all of our specializations. So the students are, in fact, coming from everywhere. Yeah.
Okay. And now it's a quite advantage that you could actually watch it at home. You don't have to go at Fontys. Yeah. So there are some positive things about coronavirus, I believe.
Yeah, you know, normally when we have the real open days, then there are quite some students who then take the effort to come over to Eindhoven and to visit us for a whole weekend. But unfortunately, that's not possible right now. You're right.
But on the other hand, yeah, there are actually more students who could join because this session is online. Oh. So it is a first experience for me to do it this way. I did some advertisement before, but of course at Fontys, not in online sessions, sitting in my living room of my house in Eindhoven. So perhaps a little bit about myself. My name is Vladimir Kapsar. I'm about 5 years teaching at Fontys, mainly in infrastructure and ICT semesters. I'm a block owner of semester 2 and also involved in teaching in start semester 1 and developing and teaching courses of semester 3. Infrastructure, ICT engineering, it's a quite new subject. So it's really the fresh courses and the fresh technology that we've been teaching, and it's just appeared on our Fontys marketing as a new profile about 2 years ago. So it's a really new, fresh course or fresh educational stream. A bit more about myself. I'm originally from Minsk, Belarus. So I'm Belarusian, about 20 years living in the Netherlands. Started my professional career at Philips in 2003, and then after 6 years shifted to consultancy, did some startup development and pretty wide range of different projects. Yeah, so I'm quite curious. What do you know about infrastructure? So it's a kind of a buzzword these days, but what is actually infrastructure? Perhaps you could give me some idea or some clue. Anyone from the class? Well, simply speaking, if you go back in the old age or like 80s or 90s, when the era when the internet has been introduced, infrastructure was at that time you could think about some medium size or small company with the various tasks. So like for instance on this picture you could think of a company which needed to connect some employees, provide some facilities to like mail or facilitation of administration tasks, accountancy. You could think about some website that the company needed to host, right? So in that sense, the infrastructure at that time was, well, simply speaking, as a certain service, as a certain service with certain computer and networking hardware facilities. So you could think, for instance, about some mail server, about some website, corporate website, about some file storage that the employees could share their files, and other things like to provide security, for instance, like a firewall and different, of course, network devices which would enable the connections between different elements of infrastructure. And also in the old times, it was quite a complex task. You could also see as on this picture here that was quite difficult to manage that, and especially when the company would grow and you would have to connect more offices, and you would have to have more employees and all kind of challenging aspects which you have to manage yourself, and you have to manage it yourself within the organization and within the network and hardware facilities you and in their disposal. So time by time, especially in the beginning of 2000, the new concept appeared, and the concept was moving those things into the cloud. So why to all these elements yourself? Why not to ask another vendor to provide this infrastructure for you? So think about, for instance, like enterprise office solutions, or like Outlook service which you're using, or think about like a Netflix service. So definitely when you need to implement a solution which has to work global-wise, which has to facilitate a lot of tasks and a lot of people, and even in the multiple regions and the countries, having infrastructure like this and taking care of those elements yourself will be quite a complex and difficult task. So the idea was moving all those elements into the cloud, and the cloud or cloud infrastructure was a somewhat, we had to take somewhat structured approach in that sense. And structured approach would be dividing this cloud infrastructure into 3 different layers, like application, platform, and infrastructure. So for instance, for a certain enterprise mail service, you could think about the applications for enterprise office would be running on application layer. They'll be using some databases, some runtime environment, or maybe even some object storage, and that would be using the platform layer. And all of this will be facilitated by different servers and network devices. So you could think about some servers like computing elements, some switches, routers, and hubs, and like a big block storage, let's say, facilities. Of course, how this is okay. This is a logical perception. So this is a logical perception of cloud infrastructure. But in reality, how is this facilitated? This facilitated on the physical world as a data center. So data center with the numerous server racks interconnected to each other and making a lot of noise and probably consuming a lot of electricity, right? So, but how did we end up in this modern way of making cloud infrastructure? Well, so this came through through revolutionizing of the infrastructure. So basically, these steps or moving from the simple IT infrastructure or infrastructure facilitated by a certain company to a cloud infrastructure, these are going to be our main topics and concerns of ICT and engineering profile. The profile, I would say, we can define the profile as a roadmap. Yes, we'll start with simple things. Like semester 1 would be, for instance, focused on local area network solutions and connectivity to internet. Then in semester 2, we're going to build and create our own private cloud, mimicking some aspects of, let's say, industrial cloud solution. Then in semester 3, we're going to explore already the intelligent infrastructure platforms. So exploring AWS, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud. And the theme of the semester 3 will be about automation and orchestration. So in semester 4, there will be some specializations offered. So you could choose, for instance, cybersecurity or data science or cloud computing. So it would give an extra layer and understanding where you could apply and use this infrastructure for different application cases. And in semester 7, I think that's also after the internships and as a part of perhaps after the graduation, the final, before the final graduation, you'll be able to explore intelligent enterprise solutions for a certain company, like creating a hybrid cloud solution using the aspects of automation, orchestration, and even service management. So we start with the basic things as a networking, learning about operation system, virtual machines, then looking into enterprise solutions like platforms and aspects related to it as, for instance, service management and so on. So it will get more complex, but also more exciting and introspective. This is an example for semester 1, where one of the things which I forgot to mention that at Fontys is applied sciences university, so we are not studying theoretical things, we work on the projects. So we really look into we formulate a certain problem or a certain functional case, and we look into the solutions with the different technologies. And of course, those projects as applied cases will get more complex with each semester. Semester 1 is a quite simple one, so you could think about infrastructure solution for a student house, or like a student house which have a number of apartments, and these apartments with students, and they need to share the same network. They could connect to different, let's say, files on those networks, and browse the files from their mate students. In semester 2, as I mentioned, so in semester 2 we're not going to use the enterprise platform, cloud platform, but we're going to try to build our own. Yeah? So because we need also to understand the building blocks of that. Yeah? Before we could actually dive into this enterprise cloud platforms, we need to understand all those aspects. So what is object storage? What is the database? What are the computer servers? What kind of networking layers and networking protocols we need to understand, and how we could apply them. So we're going to make our own, let's say, a bicycle in the first place. And this is also a place for you to experiment and to learn by mistakes. And think back in 90s when there were no cloud and people had to create their own private cloud. And this private cloud will be facilitated by our infra lab, InfraLab kindly provided by Athos. This is our partner in education, and they provided a couple of server racks. And on these server racks, you'll be able to provision, for instance, a project like running a Hyper-V system with different virtual machines, and like those are virtual machines interconnected with the virtual switch, like firewall pfSense and different networking, like virtual networking devices. Yes. So, for instance, in semester one, we do it. We facilitated, let's say, outside of the cloud. But in semester two, we create our own private cloud. And those virtual machines are running inside of our, say, server rack, facilitated by Hyper-V operation system, different elements of it. The semester two focus areas are divided in five topics, which are connecting infrastructure, provisioning infrastructure, managing, securing, and programming. So connecting infrastructure is all about different network protocols. Think about routing, switching, VPNs, Internet of Things aspects. Then provisioning infrastructures, you'll study a lot about different operation system, virtualization technologies, file systems. Managing, securing the aspects of service management, ITIL, project management, and security. Well, security management, it's a part of management too. Although security management is also a part of securing infrastructure, which is assessing different technical risks and also looking into the different ways of protecting your infrastructure. So, as for instance, encryptions, using firewalls, using secure protocols like VPN and so on. So, see, the semester two is creating a private cloud and understanding the elements of the private cloud. And you will really need this knowledge afterwards when you're going to look into semester three, which is using the services of the industrial cloud platforms. So things like Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, AWS. The focus areas would be similar and also different. So, of course, there will be also security, also about the networking, but will also be more addition to monitoring, supporting services. And another aspect in semester three that we're going to look is the automation and orchestration. So, as for instance, in semester two, you would have to create those elements manually and provision it manually. In semester three, you would need to create and automate this by use of different scripts. So, think about this is, for instance, could be a good example of that, a good exercise which the students of semester three are doing. So they would be able to, for instance, on this picture, to facilitate the deployment of the website just by one click. And the deployment will be done in AWS cloud platform, provisioning all the necessary, for instance, network infrastructure, databases, web server, and scalability, so that it could, for instance, adopt for a different amount of users and adopt also secure and safe for for instance, for different network attacks, or in case, for instance, if a certain instance is not working, then the other one would will be in help in that situation. So yeah, a little bit about semester three projects. I kindly asked 2 of my students of semester 3 to give a little bit of the introduction of the project which they just completed last week. So perhaps Dmitry and Robert, if you could share your slides and
yeah. Hello.
Hello. Sure. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think the screen sharing now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so my name is Robert. I'm a 3rd semester ICT and infrastructure student. I originally come from Lithuania.
And my name is Dmitry. I'm also a 3rd semester ICT student, and my country of origin in Russia. And we usually work with Robert in a team.
Yeah.
So now I'm gonna talk a little bit about what's our projects, what's an infrastructure for, and related topics. So basically, being an infrastructure student means that you're going to create an infrastructure which is going to meet the criteria which are mentioned in this mind map, such as your infrastructure has to be automated, scalable, available, resilient, and secure. So the next slide will explain a little bit more about it.
Yeah, so our project was to make an infrastructure on Amazon Web Services. And we made it like this. This is our network diagram. It shows how our infrastructure is built. And basically, our project was meant to host products of software team on infrastructure, like web servers. Oh, sorry, not web server, but websites or applications. And it was made also to be resilient, as told in previous slide. It's resilient. Therefore, it means that if one server fails, we always can. There is always another server, so it won't affect client. And there is also database. Our infrastructure also supports database, basically to store all kinds of information of users and etc.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so it's also an idea that that was not in the first case study, but with one click that the whole infrastructure could be provisioned, and also resilient architecture is created. So for instance, if a certain server is not running, then another one will take responsibility of it. So
yeah.
So you see, this is, yeah, sorry, perhaps I'm interrupting.
Yes, so apart from that, the features of working on a cloud is that our infrastructure is very scalable. So it can suit a lot of different software teams. So for example, there's a team who which would like to host a website, for example, or there is a team who would like to host an application on, if there is a team who would like to host a game or something like that. This is all possible using the cloud infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's always it's very available. Like you can, because it's on cloud, you can access it from anywhere in the world where there is internet access and some kind of device.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you could also see that, for instance, if you're creating this infrastructure, that it also could provision the services from different regions and from different countries.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so perhaps I can go back to my slides. Thank you, Dmitry and Robert. So, well, how is the evaluation is, and well, it's how the student is evaluated in the semester infrastructure semester 2 and 3. Actually, it was also in semester 1. Well, we switched all from the traditional exam models to portfolio basis. And you can also understand that this subject there's not much you could really check on the exams. So it's all about understanding and applying your knowledge for a certain functional case. So the students are evaluated on the basis of their portfolio. So on the portfolio of working together, of creating a certain project infrastructure for a certain case. And those this portfolio is a sort of evidence, and it's an evidence and selection of your learning activities. So this could be a report, presentation, video, feedback sessions, client interviews, and so on. Right. So generally during the semester we have like 4 evaluation moments when we, as teachers, give the feedbacks, and the student give the presentations to each other, and also a client if that's applicable. So in that sense, you can gradually show your progression of the skills and knowledge. What kind of potential jobs? Yes, it's a quite wide area, because you see, for instance, you could see yourself as a software engineer in an infrastructure too. Of course, it's less focus is given to software, because software or programming is just one of the aspects. If you go back to, for instance, semester 2, programming is given as a topic, but it's only one of the 5 topics. And so but on the other hand, it makes you pretty versatile on the market, because you learn a lot more than just software engineering. So you also learn about different operation system, networks, platforms, cybersecurity. So cybersecurity is already a topic which is given in semester 2. And you could see how, for instance, cybersecurity is applied to various assets of infrastructure. But I could formulate it as those like cloud solution engineer, architect, DevOps engineer, cybersecurity consultant, infrastructure engineer. So everywhere I think you could apply this. Of course, it's also dependent when you choose your professional career, where do you want to focus? Do you want to focus on application only, and for instance, using as a cloud just only as this is called as software, or like platform as a service solutions, or you want to see yourself as an infrastructure and provisioning the entire say solution for a company, which means different servers, storages, networkings, and operation systems. Yeah, so this was basically in short about infrastructure engineering profile, and I'm open for questions. You can also ask questions to Robert and Dmitry, or you could also give you some insight about the semester itself, not from the teacher perspective, but also from the student perspective.
Yeah, you can feel free to ask us anything.
Yeah, so you can get some inside knowledge that we as the teachers can hide. Any questions?
So, Vladimir, I already answered some questions in the chat, okay, but they're all related to other, of course, important things. So far you and the two students, you have been talking about, let's say, the content of the infrastructure program, especially in semester 2, 3, 4. Maybe you can also say a little bit more about the rest of the program. So you already mentioned that 2 semesters are related to internships, and then of course students choose assignments related to infrastructure. You already mentioned a few companies. I already explained in the chat a little bit about Brainport, so that this is really a technology region where also for ICT, also for infrastructure, where a lot is happening. So maybe you can also tell a few more things about that.
We applied sciences, so there's a lot of cooperation with partners in education. So already from semester 2 and semester 3, we have a lot of like guest lectures which are coming up from our partners in education. So for instance, Atos Origin already provided some servers. We also have visits to, for instance, data center of Atos Origin. We have some guest lectures from for instance, from Cytosmart, which is a company which is doing microscopes, and they have all their software development based on Microsoft Azure. And of course, in semester 5 and semester 5 is an internship, right? I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So semester 5, of course, if you choose infrastructure, ICT and infrastructure engineering, you probably will be doing an internship in that area. And then semester 7, I think, would be a very close cooperation with one of the partners in education, where you would be given a case, a real case, or real enterprise case that you would, for instance, need to migrate certain assets of the company into the cloud and implement a service. So in semester 3, we also have the multidisciplinary project. That's so you work on the project basis, and these are at least 2 projects per semester, and these are called case study projects. And for instance, in semester 2, the second case study project is the multidisciplinary project. That means you work in cooperation with other profiles, like software technology. So you could see your provisioning, like what Dmitry and Robert mentioned, that you create an infrastructure solution that the software students are going to use. So, for instance, their applications, they will be running on that infrastructure. And also, that multidisciplinary project is focused for a certain, or in line with a certain. In our case, there's a cooperation with these students in university in Rwanda, and they are. They're creating the service there in Africa to improve, improve sustainability, and that basically infrastructure is used by our infrastructure students, and the software solutions will be made by software students, and probably there will be some also technology, hardware, like Arduino elements, which will be created by hardware students.
Okay, thank you, Vladimir. Yeah, you already mentioned in the beginning, infrastructure is quite, let's say, a new track within ICT, and of course, understandable. You already mentioned cybersecurity, which is also one of our specializations. So I guess this specialization, cybersecurity is really part of the infrastructure program. It's
yes, cybersecurity. There's a certain overlap with the cybersecurity already from semester 2. So we could say a certain, like for instance, using of secure network protocols, security management, firewalls, IDS, IPS, GDPR. So there are certain topics which are already given in semester 2, which come in place in cybersecurity specialization. But for infrastructure, we generally focus on securing of infrastructure. Cybersecurity is quite generic. So if you could also focus on securing the web or the applications itself. So for instance, secure programming, it's something also given in cybersecurity, but that's not a part of semester 2 and semester 3. So there's overlap with cybersecurity, but I would say by 30%.
Okay.
Excuse me, I want to add a little bit of information. So in my opinion, infrastructure is the best stream if you want to choose cybersecurity, if you want to go cybersecurity, because it gives you the essential knowledge about networking, how everything works. And if you really want to go cybersecurity, I suggest you go infrastructure because it prepares nicely for such a difficult specialization.
Yeah, because if you like the software students, they don't study much about networking, virtual machines, operation systems. So, of course, they are mainly their focus on securing apps, but not much of infrastructure. Here, you come with understanding of secure infrastructure, and then if you choose, for instance, cybersecurity as specialization, you will also learn about how to create secure apps on top of your secure infrastructure.
Yeah, I already explained in the chat that in the first 12 weeks of the first semester, so when the students enter the university program, so in the first 12 weeks, they do an orientation on all these 5 profiles. And after 12 weeks, they choose, let's say, the profile they want to continue with, for example, infrastructure. So we have 5 profiles. I would always say these 5 profiles go from very technical to less technical. I would say the most technical ICT program we offer is ICT technology, embedded systems. Then I would say software engineering, closely followed by infrastructure. Then we have ICT in business and ICT in media design. By the way, these profiles, so today we have 2 more other webinars. So if you want to join them, you have to register and to take part. But am I right, Vladimir? Is infrastructure?
Yeah, I think infrastructure is on the same level as software. I mean, in the technical, in what sense is there? Yeah, it is a very technical file. So I wouldn't say that. I think it's probably software, and then maybe ICT infrastructure. ICT infrastructure probably in the same level as ICT and technology.
So do, for example, students need a lot of mathematics or?
No, not that much mathematics in that sense, no. But they need a good, let's say, conceptual, and broad, let's say, broad scope.
A good analytical level, I would say.
Analytical level, yeah. So you need to. The thing is that, yeah, an infrastructure is quite a lot of aspects which you have to keep in mind and provision that. Yeah, so you need to have a good helicopter view and then dive into a certain components. As in software, for instance, you'll be mostly focused just on one app or maybe on architecture of a certain application or software. Here is so quite a broad perspective. Am I agree? Am I right, Dmitry and Robert?
Yes, you're totally right. So, for instance, I don't think you need a high level of maths so you can study in infrastructure because it doesn't really involve a lot of mathematical like formulas and stuff like that. But I personally think that you have to have a logic so you can have a wider perspective on everything that's going on. So as Vladimir said, in software you can concentrate on working on one product, such as website or application, for instance. And in infrastructure you have to think wider and you have to provide these guys with an infrastructure which will be flexible. So you have to have a wider perspective on everything that's going on.
But of course, you also study the programming, so you will also be able to create the applications. It's just, perhaps less perfecting on that sense. Yeah, less perfecting the apps, but perfecting the infrastructure. So it's more about like, you need to create a certain app, at least it works, but then you need to provide the perfect infrastructure for it. And the software is about the app and setting it in some infrastructure that works. So you see, it's a different focus.
Another question, Vladimir, and also for Dimitri and Robert. What's a typical minor program infrastructure students choose?
So like a specialization, you mean, or you mean?
No, I really mean the minor program in the semester. What is it now? Semester 6 or 7?
Yeah, that's a good question because it hasn't happened yet. Because
yeah, but I think Robert and Dimitri are thinking about that right now.
Yeah.
We're not really thinking about semester 7 because it's pretty far from now. But from now on, we have to choose specialization until the 22nd of November. And I personally think that I'm going to choose cybersecurity because it suits me nicely and I'm prepared for it because I went through the infrastructure course and I already know the basics of it. So it's going to be easier for me to get a grasp of it and to start doing something significant.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
and I wonder between AI and cyber. I don't really know which one I will choose yet. But about minor, I think in minor we are doing. I think I'm gonna do minor in AI or cybersecurity. Well, yeah, accordingly, what I'm gonna choose.
Yeah.
Okay.
Artificial intelligence can really map pretty good, especially if you connect to cloud computing.
Yeah, indeed.
By the way, Dimitri and Robert, have you chosen to do the pre-master or have you never considered it to do?
No, I personally never considered to do the pre-master.
I considered it, but I've been kind of told that there is no master in infrastructure, but I believe it's changed right now. So because when I asked it, the infrastructure was very new, and there was no such complete answer that I wanted.
Yeah, I don't know whether the two. So University of Technology Eindhoven is that they're indeed not offering a master in infrastructure. Maybe they call it differently, maybe related to cybersecurity. I would say there should be master programs at research universities for that as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there is a cybersecurity master program in TUE, but I'm not quite sure if they would want infrastructure students to go there. I'm not sure what background they require, so you can apply for it. But
yeah, but that's what I'm aiming at. So then you would have to do your pre-master as well right now. But yeah, that's of course an extra workload. But there is an option that you can do that.
Yeah, there is an option. There is certainly an option. If you would want to go master, you certainly can. Yes.
And Dmitry and Robert, could you say something? What was the most challenging in this so far in semester 2 and semester 3?
I personally think that the information that's given to us is very innovative. It's really fresh and new. and there's a lot of it. So we had to do a lot of research by ourselves as well to get the whole idea of what is cloud computing. It's kind of a new topic, and when the student get introduced to it, it can get complicated. But in reality, when you kind of get a grasp and basic understanding of what is it and how it works, what are the components of it, it gets much more easier. And apart from that, the group work is also quite challenging because we are constantly working on group projects. We are constantly talking to our mentors. We have clients who also give us the certain criteria, and that is also quite complicated, but it's very, very useful because if you have a lot of practice with it, then when you actually going to work in a team after you graduate from a university, you already have an experience in it. So it's going to be much more easier for you. So that's what I think, at least.
Yeah, I actually have pretty much the same opinion. I can't really add anything.
Okay, I think time is almost up. First, thank you, Vladimir and Robert and Dimitri, for your great contribution. I think this webinar was very informative. Also, the students, hopefully you enjoyed. I just sent in another chat message. When you have questions, you can always send them to us, campuseindhoven@fontys.nl.
Hopefully it was not that overwhelming with the technical content.
No, but you know, these webinars are really, let's say, made for the students who have this type of interest to find out what the program is really about. So last Saturday, we had general webinars about studying in the Netherlands, studying at Fontys, etc., how to find accommodation, blah, blah, blah. And now we want to go more in depth. And that's okay, that students take part in it and find out what's their cup of tea they have to do right now.
Yeah, very good. And by the way, yeah, they will still have a semester one to make a right choice.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's a great option here at Fontys University in Eindhoven, that we offer the students, let's say, the opportunity to explore what suits them best. Okay, so I say thank you again. Wish you all the best. And for the students, yeah, maybe we will meet again sometime next year in Eindhoven.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dmitry and Robert, for helping and contributing. I think it was a great help for me and also for the students to give more insight.
Okay, thanks for having us. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.